Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. The sad news broke yesterday that there's probably a very slim chance of Fraser Forster coming back to Celtic. If not, no chance of Fraser Forster returning to Celtic on any form of deal, whether it be loan or transfer. He's decided he wants to head to Southampton and fight for his place in the team in the Premier League. So it's left with a question on Celtic's mind, and that is what we're going to do about goalkeeper. We've only got one now in the squad, Scott Bain. We've obviously got Conor Hazard coming back from loan at Dundee, but one first team keeper and Scott Bain. What are we going to do? What options have we got? Who will be our starting goalkeeper next season? So there's been a few articles like this floating about the internet over the past couple of days. I've seen it in a few outlets, a few blogs here and there, discussing some suitable options to replace Fraser Forster as our number one, our first choice goalkeeper next season. We've got some business to do. Apart from our goalkeeper right now, our squad is good enough to go and win 10 in a row next season. I think we've got a fantastic team. Maybe a little bit more depth in certain areas, but with signing Mohamed El Younousi on a permanent, sorry, not a permanent deal, but like get them back for another year, we have done a fantastic job at, assembling an outfield team which is good enough to go and win 10 in a row. But the question remains, who is going to be our first choice keeper? It's a shame to see Forster's not coming back, but what can you do about it? But we're going to go through 5 suitable options for a replacement in Fraser Forster next season. Of course, there are other options out there. You might have your own suggestions. If you do, feel free to leave them in the comments below. There's an endless list of goalkeepers. I mean, in the ideal world, Artur Boruc would come back and we would win the league with him at the helm of things. But I'm going to go through the most 5 realistic options for Celtic, give my opinion on each of them, and see who I can determine who I would pick if I was in charge of the situation at hand. If you do enjoy the video, you know what to do, like and subscribe. Let's aim for 200 likes on the video for another video tomorrow, unlikely FM, but 200 likes, and let's go into the 5 options. Right, number 1 then is the man we've already spoke about on YouTube, so I'll keep this one short and sweet, and that is former England international and former Manchester City Premier League winner, number 1, and that's Joe Hart, the man who, for years was touted as the best goalkeeper in the whole Premier League. Now, the biggest fall from grace perhaps any goalkeeper has ever seen. I've already made my views abundantly clear on my stance, you should say, as signing Joe Hart. I think he's a bit past it now. I know a lot of people disagreed with me in the last video in the comments section, and I understand that. Joe Hart is going to be someone who will kind of split the fans in half, I think. I put a poll up on Twitter, about 700 people voted, and 70% said no to him as well. So maybe the majority are with me, but there are a lot of people who would take him as goalkeeper. A lot of people using the argument of, well, we signed Craig Gordon after 2 years of not playing football. We signed Fraser Forster after nearly 2 years of not playing football. Look what we've done for their careers, and look how good they were for us, which is a very fair point. It's a very fair assumption that Joe Hart could come in and do the same thing. He can come in after 18 months of no first team football and be a top goalkeeper, but it's just a risk that this year I do not think we should be taking. And what is the biggest season of our current, or our modern footballing history? We're going for 10 in a row here, and I don't want to risk it on Joe Hart, because all signs before he stopped playing football indicated that he was hopeless. He was, he was chanted out of West Ham. The fans hated him. West Ham thought he was rotten, and rightfully so, because he was. His hands were like, once again, I'll say, polo mints. I just don't think he is the best option. If it does come to it, I'm not going to complain. He's still a man who's got plenty of experience. He's got 4 golden gloves in the Premier League, for goodness sake. But when you think about wages for this guy and everything else, and the fact he's not played much football, I just think there are a lot of better options out there. A lot of people saying his attitude will be right for Celtic, and I can see that, but he's just not for me. But right now, he probably is the leading candidate to be the replacement for Fraser Forster. Option number 2 is a familiar name to Celtic fans. We'll all remember him, David Marshall. A man who, at a very young age established himself as a top keeper at Celtic back in the day, and he's went on to have quite a decent career since. Probably not hit the heights as some may have expected to, but he's still been a fantastic shot stopper, and he's still Scotland's number 1 to this day. Obviously a bit older, in his 30s now. He's been around the block. I think he's a good keeper. I don't know if he's quite the option for number 1. I wouldn't mind him coming back to Celtic to add to the depth at that goalkeeping area, because he is a top keeper. As I said, he's Scotland's number one. He's been part of a kind of renaissance down at Wigan, helping them pull out the relegation zone. Of course, Wigan now going in administration. He probably won't be there much longer, and Celtic could be a suitable option for him to come back to. Now, as Scotland's number one, you'd think to yourself, he could probably be Celtic's number one. I don't think he's a name that would please many fans. I don't think many fans want David Marshall to be that replacement for Fraser Forster, but I think he's shown for Scotland as well as club football that he still is a top keeper. I've always liked David Marshall, and he gets what Celtic's about. He's been brought up with Celtic, so I wouldn't mind bringing him back in once again. I think if he was, it would have to be to a lesser role. I think first team keeper, maybe, because people will be saying, if you don't think Joe Hart's the answer to the 10-in-a-row season, how is David Marshall? Because Joe Hart's evidently had a better career than David Marshall and is younger than David Marshall. But I don't know, something about David Marshall I would like to see back in a Celtic jersey, but I don't know to what extent. Once again, I don't think it'd be a crowd pleasing signing, but certainly a name that we shouldn't instantly knock back. Number 3 is the man who I think should be the ideal replacement from the names that I am going to put together in this video, but I'll come to a kind of conclusion at the end and talk about my options. It's Vasilis Barkas of AEK Athens, a familiar name maybe to some, as he was the goalkeeper who was, you know, responsible for our exit in the Champions League a couple of seasons ago. I mean, he wasn't single-handedly responsible, but he had a decent enough performance as Athens knocked us out of the Champions League qualifiers. The man who has been, you know, pretty decent for them it's ever since. I mean, there's not much has changed. I think they've played 20 games this season. He's conceded 15 goals, but this man's 6'5", kind of ideal replacement for a man like Fraser Forster. Forster was standing around 6'5", 6'6", and I'm not just saying sign him purely on height. I think goalkeeping comes a lot more down to the acrobatic or athletic ability of some, but he's a big guy, he's menacing, he's someone who, you know, Fraser Forster has always had that sort of stature around him, that if someone's standing from 12 yards ready to take a penalty kick, you're panting yourself because there's a guy that size only 12 yards in front of you, and I feel like that could be replicated with Barkas. I think this is a player that we should be looking at. I don't think he'd be too expensive. I think they've got a few million euros in their asking price somewhere, but we can probably bring that down. I think he'd be a really suitable option. He's only 26 as well, and this is someone who has been playing regular first team football. Unlike Joe Hart, this is someone who is ready to go. There's no kind of easing into things, and of course goalkeepers are always a hit or miss. I think, you know, you don't know what you're going to get. Sometimes goalkeepers are built to be so much, they come in, they're rotten. Sometimes you find a gem. Sometimes the best keepers just come out of nowhere. You know, you just don't expect it. I mean, when we signed Fraser Forster initially on loan from Newcastle, he was a young boy who nobody knew nothing about, and we didn't know what to expect, and it turns out he was fantastic. There's a lot of keepers just kind of plucked from nowhere, and this guy could be an example of that, but then again, could be a dud. Look at Lucas Saluska. But I would like to sign this guy, Barkas, Greek international as well. He's a very good looking goalkeeper. Good looking by terms of goalkeeping ability, not by looks. But I think number 1 choice for me has got to be this guy. The next one is a familiar name to fans of the Scottish Premiership. It's Vaclav Hladky. Hladky, is that how you say it? I think it's Hladky. I'm going to roll with that. Former St Mirren goalkeeper is now contract over at St Mirren, and from, you know, the start of last season until the very last ball kick, I can't speak today, man. My natural ability to speak without a script or anything is just slowly leaving me. It really is. I get all caught up. But Hladky, still can't do it. Hladky was touted by many as a good keeper last season. He had solid performances week in, week out. For playing a team like St Mirren, you know, they've not got a lot of quality there. They were always going to be a kind of relegation battling side, and they were going to concede a lot of goals down to that. But if it wasn't for this man between the sticks, things could have been a lot worse for St Mirren last season. And it's someone who has actually been linked, a lot of last season was linked to go to Rangers actually as their backup to Alan McGregor, but looks as though that's not going to happen now. Of course, Rangers signing John McLaughlin from Sunderland. But I think Hladky would be another suitable option for perhaps a backup to someone maybe. He even could step into the role of being the number 1 at some point. He's definitely got the potential to. He's shown how good he was at St Mirren. He's a Premiership player. He's got the knowledge, he's got the experience. He's somebody who's kind of ready to step into the league again, and he could, you know, surprise folk as a number 1 choice. I think us as Celtic fans have got to the stage now where we're kind of guilty of passing up on names who aren't like Celtic players, you know, players that are playing at St Mirren and such. I think we have a kind of conscious of turning them down. It's terrible at times. I mean, some people will look and go, he's a St Mirren keeper. Why do we want St Mirren's keeper? But he is a very talented player, and it could be a good option. I would maybe like this, you know, especially, you know, you're paying no money. His contract's up at St Mirren. He's not going back. It could be a very useful addition to the Celtic squad. Maybe not as much as the Greek keeper we're talking about, but I would like to bring in Hradke maybe. I think it would be good. I mean, you've got him and Bain in there, and then maybe just another option to be the regular number one. That's a decent goalkeeping setup, if you ask me. And finally, the fifth person we're going to speak about is someone who has been an FM favourite of mine for years. And no, I'm not just based it off FM. I have actually, you know, researched this video going into it. I have looked at my players. I've looked at, you know, their stats, and I've looked at how they've been doing. It's not just FM based, although due to FM, I wouldn't mind this happening. Freddie Woodman, who is on loan to Swansea City this season, has had a very solid season with them. Swansea probably not at the level they would like to be within the Championship. You know, a team who, you know, have been used to being in the Premier League for the past kind of decade. They've been in and out. They're not in that playoff area just now they would like to be. But someone who has been decent for them is Freddie Woodman, who's on loan from Newcastle. And Newcastle have made it clear that they would like to get rid of him. Not on a permanent basis, but perhaps loan him out again next season. And he's someone that, you know, Celtic ideally could go for. Or someone we can afford. His wages aren't going to be outrageous. He's playing at a team like Swansea just now. It's a step up for him coming to Celtic. He's got that chance of winning trophies. He's got that chance of European football. And he's a young guy. So he's got a lot of, you know, positives if he comes up to Celtic. Like Fraser Forster loaned him in from Newcastle. Well, I do big things. Once again, probably a lot of the goalkeepers on this list are names that Celtic fans are going to turn on and go, nah. But do you know what? I wouldn't mind bringing in Freddie. I think he looks like a good keeper. And he's done well enough at Swansea. And I've rabbled for a lot of this video, so I'm just going to try and wrap it up. And that does it then. That's it for the video. There's the 5 ideal options for me as far as we know in terms of realistic signings that we should go for to replace Fraser Forster. Ideal in a perfect world. We get Forster back. He comes in. He joins the club. He stays again. But it doesn't look as though it's going to happen unless there's a few more twists and turns in that saga. But we'll see as the weeks go on. We're coming at a time where our friendlies are going to be rolling up soon. The season is apparently starting in a month's time. We need to get things sorted. But there's 5 options for you. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And I'll see you all next time.